Snow falls gently outside the crystal ballroom of the Bennett estate, but inside, the atmosphere is anything but serene. Victoria Bennett stands before the towering Christmas tree, her emerald silk dress catching the light from thousands of twinkling ornaments. Her fingers trace the stem of her champagne glass as she watches the elite of Boston society swirl around her in a dance of wealth and pretense. "Perfect posture, Victoria." Her father's voice cuts through the classical music. "You're a Bennett. Act like one." Richard Bennett, Boston's most influential real estate developer, approaches with calculated steps. His silver hair and tailored tuxedo project the image he's spent decades crafting. Power, control, success. But Victoria sees what others miss, the hardness in his eyes, the slight downturn of his mouth that appears whenever she fails to meet his impossible standards. "Yes, father," she responds automatically, straightening her spine even though every fiber of her being wants to rebel. At 26, she's tired of being the perfect daughter, the ornament in her father's carefully constructed world. The ballroom sparkles with Christmas decorations worth more than most people's yearly salary. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow reflections across the marble floor where Boston's elite gather for the annual Bennett Christmas Gala. But this year feels different. There's a tension in the air that makes Victoria's skin prickle. Her father clears his throat, drawing the attention of nearby guests. "I have an announcement to make," he says, his voice carrying across the room with practiced authority. The orchestra falls silent. "As many of you know, my daughter Victoria has always been strong-willed." Victoria's heart pounds. This isn't the usual social small talk. Something is wrong. "Recently, her choices have reflected poorly on the Bennett name," he continues, and Victoria feels the blood drain from her face. He's referring to her decision to quit the family business, her dream of opening an art gallery instead of following his carefully laid plans. "Therefore, I've made arrangements to ensure her future and the future of our family legacy." Richard's smile doesn't reach his eyes as he gestures to someone in the crowd. "James McCallen, please join us." A man emerges from the gathering, and whispers ripple through the crowd. He's tall, with rough hands that speak of manual labor, nothing like the polished businessmen who usually frequent these events. His suit, while clean and pressed, is clearly off the rack, marking him as an outsider in this world of bespoke everything. "James is a craftsman," Richard announces. "A carpenter who's done some work for our real estate developments, and as of this evening he is Victoria's fiancé." The champagne glass slips from Victoria's fingers, shattering on the marble floor. The crash echoes through the sudden silence, but she barely notices. Her world is shattering just like that crystal, splintering into 1,000 glittering pieces. "Father, you can't," she starts, but Richard's hand clamps around her arm, his grip steel beneath his silk gloves. "I can, and I have," he whispers, his voice meant only for her. "You want to reject everything I've built? Fine. Then you'll marry someone who builds things with his hands, someone whose world you seem to admire so much." Victoria looks at James McCallen, really looks at him. His face is handsome in a rugged way, but his expression is unreadable. Does he know this is a punishment? Is he a willing participant in her father's cruel game? "The wedding will be held in 3 months," Richard announces to the stunned crowd. "Consider this our Christmas gift to society, a union of old money and honest labor." The words drip with sarcasm that only Victoria seems to hear. James steps forward, and Victoria notices something unexpected in his deep brown eyes. Not triumph or greed, but a flicker of compassion. Before she can process this, her father is pressing her hand into James's calloused palm. "A dance," Richard commands, "to celebrate the engagement." As James leads her onto the dance floor, Victoria feels the weight of hundreds of eyes watching them. The orchestra begins a waltz, and James moves with surprising grace for a carpenter. His hand on her waist is gentle, nothing like her father's grip moments ago. "I'm sorry," he whispers, so softly she almost misses it. Victoria stares at him, confused by the sincerity in his voice. "You knew about this." "Your father approached me last week." James admits, guiding her through a turn. He made an offer I couldn't refuse. Money, Victoria says bitterly. Everything's about money with him. But James just looks at her with those deep eyes that seem to hold secrets. Not everything, he says quietly. As they dance beneath the sparkling lights, Victoria's mind races. This is more than just her father's punishment. There's something else at play here. Something in James's manner, in the careful way he holds himself, tells her there's more to this arrangement than a simple business deal. The music swells, and over James's shoulder, Victoria catches her father watching them with satisfaction. She realizes with crushing clarity that this is her new reality. Her dreams of independence, of creating her own path, are being buried under her father's iron will. But as the dance continues, another realization dawns, one that terrifies her even more. James McCallen is not what he seems. The gentle strength in his hands, the intelligence in his eyes, the grace in his movements. He's a mystery wrapped in working-class clothes, and she's being forced to marry him. The Christmas lights blur as tears threaten to fall. Victoria Bennett, who has spent her whole life fighting against her father's control, now faces her greatest challenge. Because either she's being married off to a fortune hunter skilled enough to fool them all, or there's something much deeper and more complex happening, something that even her calculating father may not understand. As the waltz ends, James steps back and bows slightly. "Thank you for the dance, Miss Bennett." Victoria stands frozen on the dance floor, watching him disappear into the crowd. The Christmas tree lights reflect off the shattered champagne glass still scattered across the marble floor. A perfect metaphor for her shattered plans, her shattered freedom. But in the glittering chaos of broken crystal and Christmas lights, one question burns brighter than all the others. Who is James McCallen really? And what game is he playing? Will Victoria find love in this forced marriage, or is there something deeper hiding behind James's gentle eyes? Keep watching to discover the truth that will change everything. 3 weeks after the Christmas gala, Victoria sits in her father's mahogany-paneled study, facing James McCallen across an antique desk covered in wedding preparations. Her father's insistence on a swift ceremony means endless meetings about flowers, venues, and guest lists. Meetings she's determined to sabotage. "I think we should invite at least 500 guests," Victoria says sweetly, knowing her father's reputation demands it. "And of course, we'll need the Plaza Hotel. Nothing else would do for a Bennett wedding." She watches James carefully, waiting for signs of discomfort at the mounting expenses. But James simply nods, his expression maddeningly calm. "Whatever you think is best." His voice carries no trace of anxiety about the astronomical costs, despite his modest income. Victoria narrows her eyes. Most fortune hunters would be eagerly agreeing, yet James seems almost disinterested in the extravagance. It's not the reaction she expected, and it irritates her even more than fake enthusiasm would have. "The plaza will need a substantial deposit," she pushes. "Today, actually. I assume that won't be a problem?" Before James can respond, Richard Bennett strides into the study. "The deposits have been handled," he announces. "James has already transferred the funds." Victoria stares at James in shock. A carpenter shouldn't have that kind of money. The question must show on her face because James meets her gaze steadily. "I've been saving for a long time," he says simply. Later that afternoon, Victoria paces her apartment, frustration building with each step. Her attempts to intimidate James with excessive spending have failed. She needs a new strategy. The next morning, she arrives unannounced at his workshop on the outskirts of Boston. The building is larger than she expected, with high ceilings and massive windows letting in streams of winter sunlight. The scent of sawdust and varnish fills the air. She finds James bent over a cherry-wood table, his hands moving with precise skill across the surface. He's wearing worn jeans and a simple white t-shirt, sawdust clinging to his dark hair. It's a far cry from the man who danced with such sophistication at the gala. "Impressive space," she says loudly, making him look up. Must be expensive to rent in this area. James straightens, wiping his hands on a cloth. I own it, he says quietly. Bought it last year. Another piece that doesn't fit the simple carpenter image. Victoria runs her finger along a nearby shelf, examining the intricate designs carved into various pieces of furniture. These aren't mass-produced items. They're works of art. Why did you agree to this arrangement? She asks bluntly. What did my father offer you? James sets down his tools, giving her his full attention. Maybe I said yes, because I wanted to get to know you. Victoria laughs bitterly. Please, I'm being forced to marry you as punishment. Don't pretend this is some romance. Is that what you think this is? Punishment? His voice is gentle, almost sad. Your father told me you want to open an art gallery. The mention of her dream catches her off guard. What does that have to do with anything? Art takes many forms, Victoria. Sometimes it's paint on canvas, sometimes it's wood shaped by careful hands. He gestures to a partially completed rocking chair. Every piece tells a story. There's something in his voice, a passion that makes her look at him differently for a moment. But she quickly pushes the feeling aside. Save the philosophy. I'm not interested in your stories. Yet over the next few weeks, Victoria finds herself noticing things. James works late into the night, but his workshop is often dark when she drives by. Receipts she glimpses show materials being delivered to different addresses. Phone calls end abruptly when she enters the room. One evening, while dropping off more wedding documents, she spots a set of blueprints hastily rolled up and hidden away. Before she can get a closer look, James appears in the doorway. Would you like to stay for coffee, he offers, and something in his expression makes her wonder if he wants her to say yes. I can't, she replies automatically, but for the first time she feels a twinge of regret. That night, unable to sleep, Victoria drives past his workshop again. His truck is there, but the building is dark. As she watches, James emerges, locks up, and drives away into the snowy night. Without fully understanding why, Victoria follows him. His truck winds through Boston streets, heading away from the wealthy neighborhoods and into an area she barely recognizes. The snow falls harder, creating a ghostly curtain through which she barely keeps sight of his taillights. Finally, James's truck turns down a side street and stops in front of an old brick building. Victoria parks at a distance, her heart pounding as she watches him unload something from the truck's bed. What looks like carefully wrapped furniture. A security guard greets him warmly, helping with the delivery. They know each other. This isn't the first time James has been here. Victoria steps out of her car, the snow crunching under her boots. She moves closer, keeping to the shadows, and catches fragments of conversation. The children will love these. Almost finished, keeping it quiet until... Children. Victoria edges closer, but her foot catches on an icy patch. She stumbles, catching herself against a wall. But the noise is enough to make James turn around. Their eyes meet through the falling snow. In that moment, Victoria realizes she's crossed a line, from reluctant fiancé to active spy. But she also sees something in James's expression that isn't anger or annoyance. It's invitation. Would you like to know the truth? Victoria, he calls out softly. All of it. She stands in the swirling snow, heart racing, knowing her answer will change everything, because deep down, she's already glimpsed enough to know that James McCallen isn't just a carpenter, and this building isn't just a late-night delivery stop. The truth waits behind those brick walls. And Victoria Bennett, who has spent weeks trying to push James away, suddenly finds herself taking a step forward, drawn by the mystery in his eyes and the secrets he's been keeping. Snow continues to fall around them, transforming the city into something magical and unknown. Just like her life, Victoria realizes, has become something she no longer recognizes. And standing there in the darkness, she faces a choice: turn away and maintain her angry distance, or step into whatever secret world James McCallen has been building in the shadows of Boston's snowy nights. What secret is James hiding in that old building? Drop it if you think there's more to this mysterious carpenter than meets the eye. The old brick building looms before them, its windows dark except for a warm glow from the security guard's station. James takes Victoria's arm gently, guiding her through the snow toward a side entrance. His touch is warm, despite the winter chill, and she finds herself not pulling away. "Before I show you this," James says, turning to face her, "I need you to understand something. This isn't just a project for me. These kids, they're why I agreed to your father's arrangement." Victoria's confusion must show on her face because James continues, his voice soft but intense. "Your father owns this building. He was planning to demolish it next month to build luxury condos. But I couldn't let that happen." He unlocks the door, and they step into a hallway that smells of fresh paint and new wood. James flips a switch and Victoria gasps. The corridor is lined with handcrafted benches, each one uniquely designed with whimsical patterns, dragons, castles, flowers, carved into the wood. "Welcome to St. Mary's Children's Home," James says, watching her reaction carefully, "or what it's going to be once we're finished." They walk through the building, and with each room, Victoria's understanding shifts. The mysterious late-night deliveries, the hidden blueprints, the unexpected expenses. It all makes sense now. Every room contains James's handiwork, bunk beds with built-in storage drawers, study desks sized for children, toy boxes decorated with intricate fairy tale scenes. "You're turning it into an orphanage," she whispers, running her hand along a bookshelf shaped like a tree, its branches holding books at different heights for children of all ages. The nuns who run the current facility across town are losing their lease. These kids need a home. James stops in what will clearly be a common room, dominated by a massive Christmas tree he's crafted from wooden panels, each one carved with holiday scenes. "Your father's offer, marrying you in exchange for this building. It was the only way I could save this place." Victoria turns to him, seeing him truly for the first time. "You're using your own money, all of it. That's why you didn't flinch at the wedding costs." James nods. "Every penny I've saved over the years, every piece of furniture I've sold, it's all gone into this place." He hesitates, then adds softly, "I grew up in a place like this. I know what it means to have nothing, and what it means when someone cares enough to give you a real home." Victoria's eyes burn with unexpected tears. All her assumptions about him, all her anger and resistance crumble in the face of this reality. She thinks about her own privileged life, about the art gallery she wants to open, her dream that suddenly seems small compared to this. "Show me more," she whispers. Over the next hour, James leads her through the building. Each room reveals another facet of his vision. A library with reading nooks built into the walls, a craft room with adjustable workbenches where kids can learn to create, a music room with acoustic panels he's designed to look like ocean waves. "The children visit sometimes after hours," James explains. "They help design the spaces. That dragon bench? A 7-year-old named Michael drew the original sketch. As if on cue, they hear voices from downstairs, children's voices, full of excitement and wonder. Sister Margaret, the head nun, has brought some of the kids for their weekly visit. "James! James!" A small girl with braids spots him and runs over. "Did you finish my bed? The one with the butterflies?" James scoops her up, his entire face transforming with a smile Victoria has never seen before. "Sure did, Lucy. Want to see it?" Victoria watches as James shows Lucy her bed, explaining how each butterfly is unique, just like she is. The little girl's eyes shine with joy, and something inside Victoria's heart shifts permanently. But their moment of peace is shattered by the sharp ring of her phone. Her father's name flashes on the screen. "Victoria." Richard Bennett's voice is cold with suspicion. "I just received an interesting report about your whereabouts. Care to explain why you're at my Westbrook Street property at this hour?" Victoria looks at James, at Lucy, at the room full of hope and dreams. "I'm learning about investments, Father," she says carefully. "Isn't that what you always wanted?" "Don't play games with me," his tone sharpens. "I know McCallen's been spending time there. Whatever he's planning. It's nothing, Father, just some restoration work before the demolition." There's a long pause. I'm moving up the timeline. The demolition crew starts next week, not next month. I suggest you tell your fiancé to remove any personal property before then. Victoria's blood runs cold. Father, wait! But he's already hung up. She turns to James, who's still holding Lucy, both of them looking at her with trusting eyes that break her heart. James, she starts, her voice trembling. We have a problem. Lucy hugs James's neck tighter, sensing the tension. Outside, the snow continues to fall, but it no longer feels magical. Instead, it feels like a clock ticking down, counting the moments until her father's wrecking ball destroys not just a building, but the hopes and dreams of dozens of children. Victoria looks at the wooden Christmas tree, at Lucy's butterfly bed, at all the love and craftsmanship James has poured into this place. She thinks about her father's cold ambition, about the choice she now faces, because this isn't just about a building anymore. It's about what kind of person she wants to be, what kind of life she wants to lead. And as she watches James comfort Lucy, speaking softly about butterflies and dreams, Victoria Bennett makes a decision that will either save everything or cost her everything. She just hopes they have enough time to pull it off. James is fighting to save these children's dreams. Share your thoughts below. Would you risk everything for love and what's right? Dawn breaks cold and grey over Boston as Victoria stares at the demolition notice posted on St. Mary's front door. The paper trembles in her hands, its official letterhead bearing her father's company logo. 7 days. They have 7 days before the bulldozers arrive. Inside, James works frantically, trying to finish as much as he can. The rhythmic sound of his hammer echoes through the building, a desperate race against time. Victoria watches him for a moment, seeing the determination in every movement, the love he pours into each piece he creates. We need to fight this, she says, her voice stronger than she feels. There has to be a way. James sets down his tools, sawdust clinging to his shirt. Your father owns the building, Victoria. He holds all the cards. No, she says firmly. He doesn't. Not anymore. Victoria pulls out her phone and starts making calls. First to local newspapers, then to television stations. She reaches out to her contacts in Boston's art community, to the society women who've always fawned over her at parties, to anyone who might listen. I need you to come see something, she tells them, something that will change how you see everything. They come. Reporters with cameras, socialites in designer coats, curious onlookers drawn by the buzz. Victoria leads them through St. Mary's, letting James tell his story. She watches their faces change as they see the handcrafted furniture, hear about the children, understand the dream that's being built here. A reporter from the Boston Globe kneels to examine a toy chest, running her fingers over the carved circus animals that dance across its surface. Each piece is unique, she murmurs. This isn't just furniture, it's art. Art with a purpose, Victoria says, her voice carrying across the room. Every piece here is designed to give children something they've never had. A real home, a place where they feel special and loved. The story breaks that afternoon. Bennett heiress defies father to save orphanage, splashes across news websites. Videos of James's craftsmanship go viral. Social media explodes with images of Lucy's butterfly bed, of the Christmas tree that tells stories in its wooden panels, of the library nooks where children can dream. But Richard Bennett isn't a man who backs down easily. The next morning, a team of security guards arrives. Attempting to close the building, they find a human chain of protesters blocking the entrance. Artists, teachers, parents with their own children, all standing together in the winter cold. Victoria's phone rings. Her father's name flashes on the screen. What do you think you're doing? Richard's voice is deadly quiet. The right thing, Victoria answers. For once in my life, I'm doing the right thing. You're destroying everything I've built. Our reputation, our legacy. No, Father, I'm building something real, something that matters. Come to my office, now. Victoria looks at James, who's showing a group of supporters his latest project, a series of memory boxes where each child can store their treasures. He meets her eyes across the room, And in that moment she draws strength from his unwavering dedication. "No," she tells her father, "if you want to talk, you come here. See what you're trying to destroy." An hour later, Richard Bennett's black Mercedes pulls up outside St. Mary's. The crowd parts silently as he walks through, his expensive shoes crunching on the salted sidewalk. Victoria meets him at the door, standing tall. "You're making a spectacle of yourself," he hisses, "of our family. Come inside, father, please." She leads him through the building, watching his face as he takes in James's work. They find James in the common room, helping Sister Margaret and several children decorate the wooden Christmas tree with handmade ornaments. "Mr. Bennett," Lucy runs over, holding up a wooden star. "Look what James made me. It has my name on it, see?" Richard stares at the little girl, at her worn clothes and bright eyes, then at the star crafted with such care. Victoria sees something flicker across his face, recognition, perhaps, of a truth he's been avoiding. "This is what you're fighting to destroy, father," Victoria says softly. "Not just a building, not just furniture, but hope, dreams, a chance for these children to have something beautiful in their lives." "It's prime real estate," Richard argues, but his voice lacks its usual conviction. "The condos would bring jobs, revenue." "We can create jobs," James interrupts, stepping forward. "I've been teaching some of the older kids woodworking. They have talent, Mr. Bennett. Give us a chance to build something more valuable than luxury apartments." Richard turns to Victoria, really looking at her for the first time in years. "You believe in this, in him?" "I believe in what we're trying to do here," she answers. "And yes, I believe in James. Not because you forced me to marry him, but because he showed me what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself." Sister Margaret approaches, holding out a folder. "Mr. Bennett, these are our financial projections. The woodworking program could be self-sustaining within 2 years. We have donors willing to help with operating costs. All we need is a chance." Richard takes the folder, his businessman's instincts warring with something deeper. He looks around the room, at the children working on their ornaments, at the furniture that transforms a space into a home, at his daughter standing beside the man he chose to punish her, now united in something he hadn't anticipated. 2 years, he says finally. "I'll give you 2 years to prove this can work. But I want quarterly reports, proper accounting." He's cut off by Lucy, throwing her arms around his legs. Thank you. Does this mean we get to keep our butterfly beds?" Richard Bennett, Boston's most powerful developer, looks down at the little girl, hugging his perfectly pressed trousers. For a moment, his stern facade cracks, revealing something that might be a smile. But before Victoria can celebrate, her father turns to her with a calculating look. "However, there's still the matter of your engagement. If you're so convinced James is worthy, prove it. Move up the wedding next week. Show everyone this wasn't just some publicity stunt." Victoria's heart stops. She looks at James, who's watching her with those deep, understanding eyes. Their relationship has grown, yes, but marriage, now, when they're just beginning to know each other's hearts? The room falls silent, waiting. In one direction lies safety, agreeing to her father's terms, securing the orphanage's future. In the other, uncertainty, fighting for more time, risking everything they've built. Victoria stands at the crossroads, feeling the weight of every child's hope, every carved dream, every moment that has led her here. Her next words will either seal their victory or destroy everything they've fought to save. In the silence, James steps forward, his voice soft but clear. "The choice is yours, Victoria. It always has been." And in that moment, looking into his eyes, Victoria Bennett finally understands what kind of love is worth fighting for and what kind of person she wants to become. Victoria must choose between her father's demands and her growing feelings for James. Tell us in the comments, what would you do to protect the ones you love? Snow falls softly on Christmas Eve as Victoria stands in the center of St. Mary's common room, surrounded by twinkling lights and the scent of pine. James's wooden Christmas tree towers before her, each carved panel telling a story of hope and transformation. She touches the newest panel, added just yesterday. It shows a little girl offering a star to a man in a business suit. "Ready?" James asks, appearing beside her. He's wearing a simple black suit, his work clothes exchanged for something more formal, but his hands still bear the marks of his craft, the true badges of his dedication. Victoria smooths her cream-colored dress, simpler and more elegant than anything she would have chosen for the grand wedding her father originally demanded. "I've never been more ready for anything in my life." 1 week ago, faced with her father's ultimatum, Victoria had made her choice, not just to marry James, but to do it their way. Here in the place where she first understood what love truly means. The common room has been transformed. James's handcrafted benches line the makeshift aisle, each one filled with a unique combination of guests. Children from the orphanage sitting alongside Boston's elite, nuns next to newspaper reporters, craftsmen and socialites united in this moment. Sister Margaret approaches, her eyes shining. "Victoria, there's someone who wants to see you before we begin." She leads Victoria to a small side room, where Richard Bennett stands awkwardly holding a wooden box. He's changed over the past week, his usual sharp corporate armor softened somehow. "I've been visiting," he admits quietly, "coming early in the mornings, watching James work, seeing how the children's faces light up when they help him." He holds out the box. "James taught me how to make this. My first attempt at creating something with my hands." Victoria opens the box carefully. Inside lies a delicate wooden frame, slightly imperfect, but crafted with obvious care. The photo inside shows a much younger Richard holding a toddler Victoria, both of them laughing as she plays with his tie. "I forgot," Richard says, his voice rough with emotion. "I forgot what it means to build something real, to create joy instead of just wealth." He looks at his daughter, really sees her. "I'm sorry, Victoria, for trying to control your life, for not seeing that you and James, you're building something far more valuable than anything I've achieved." Victoria feels tears threatening to fall. "Dad, no, let me finish." He straightens his shoulders. "I've made some calls. The building is yours and James's. No conditions, no quarterly reports. And," he hesitates, "I'm matching every donation made to St. Mary's. These children deserve a chance to build their own dreams." Before Victoria can respond, Lucy bursts into the room, resplendent in her flower girl dress. "It's time, everyone's waiting." The ceremony that follows isn't like any wedding Boston's elite have ever attended. Children read poems about love and hope. Sister Margaret speaks about the miracle of finding family in unexpected places. James's fellow craftsmen have created an arch of interwoven woods, each piece telling part of Victoria and James's story. When it's time for the vows, James takes Victoria's hands in his calloused fingers intertwine with hers, strength meeting softness. "Victoria," he says, his voice carrying to every corner of the room, "I came here to build furniture, but I found my heart's true purpose. You taught me that love isn't about grand gestures or perfect plans. It's about building something beautiful together, piece by piece, day by day. I promise to spend my life creating joy with you, making space for dreams to grow, and showing you every day that true love is the greatest masterpiece we can craft." Victoria squeezes his hands, her heart full. "James, you showed me what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself. I thought I was being punished when my father arranged our marriage, but instead I was being given the greatest gift, the chance to see love in its purest form. I promise to stand beside you, to help build homes for hearts that need them, and to treasure the beautiful, imperfect, magical life we create together." As they exchange rings, a sound fills the room. The children have begun singing, their voices rising pure and clear in a Christmas carol. Victoria looks out at the gathered faces, Lucy beaming from beside Sister Margaret, her fellow artisans watching with pride, her father wiping away an unexpected tear. Later, during the celebration, Victoria finds James in his workshop, putting the finishing touches on one last project. It's a sign for the entrance, carved with the words, "St. Mary's Children's Home, where dreams take root." "Ready to hang it?" she asks, wrapping her arms around him from behind. Almost. James adds one final detail, a small heart carved into the corner. There, now it's perfect. They carry the sign together through the snowy courtyard. The children follow, throwing snowballs and laughing. At the entrance, Richard Bennett is waiting with a ladder. "Allow me," he says, taking one end of the sign. "I think it's time I learned how to build something." Together, father and son-in-law hang the sign while Victoria watches, her heart so full it might burst. As the last nail is hammered home, the church bells begin to ring, announcing Christmas Day. Lucy tugs on Victoria's dress. "Is this our Christmas miracle?" she asks, her eyes wide with wonder. Victoria looks at her new family, at James helping her father down the ladder, at the children making snow angels in the courtyard, at Sister Margaret organizing hot chocolate for everyone. She thinks about the journey that brought them here, about love that builds instead of breaks, about dreams that grow stronger when shared. "No, sweetheart," she says, lifting Lucy into her arms. "This isn't just a miracle. This is what happens when people choose love over fear, when they build bridges instead of walls, when they open their hearts to possibilities they never imagined." Snow continues to fall, dusting everyone with Christmas magic. Inside St. Mary's, lights twinkle on James's wooden Christmas tree, each panel now telling not just a story of hope, but of promises kept and dreams fulfilled. And in that moment, surrounded by the family they've built and the love they've grown, Victoria and James share a look that says more than words ever could. Because sometimes the greatest miracles aren't the ones that happen to us, but the ones we create together, one heart, one dream, one carefully crafted piece at a time. What would you have done in Victoria's place? Would you have had the courage to fight for love and what's right, even against your own family? At what moment did you realize James was someone special, worthy of Victoria's heart? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Your perspective matters to our community. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Your support keeps our channel going, allowing us to bring you moving, heartwarming stories every single day. And if you're ready for another emotional journey that will warm your soul, click on the story appearing on your left. Trust me, it's a tale of love, redemption, and unexpected miracles that will stay in your heart long after it ends. You won't want to miss it.